This video is sponsored by Anker. When I first started YouTube, I didn't even have a desk. I would rush home from the school bus so I could record videos on my parents' kitchen table before they got back from work. If that wasn't an option, I'd shoot videos on the floor, on my bed, and eventually on a small desk in my bedroom. My chair of choice? A heavy wooden dining room chair that I was able to temporarily use until it was needed at dinner time. Okay, it wasn't a choice, but it worked just fine for years. Then everything changed in 2009. It was my 16th birthday, and my parents, who were not rich by any means, surprised me with my first ever iMac. This now sat on my bedroom desk and would become the centerpiece for my first ever legit desk setup. Fast forward a few years, and I finally had my first ever home office. It was in a spare bedroom in my parents' new rental house. I shot most of my videos on this tan folding table with a black tablecloth thrown over it to give it a cleaner look. The walls were bare, the room was tiny, and I relied mostly on natural light from the window, but it worked. On the other side of the room, I had my old desk with the iMac, a blue snowball mic, and a MacBook Pro that I had just spent all of my savings on. But 2 years later, in 2016, everything took another turn. I moved out on my own, and since money was even tighter now, my setup was a mess. I had this glass L-shaped desk with the 2009 iMac on one side and an old Vizio TV that I used as a second monitor on the other. Clearly, this wasn't working well since all of my videos flopped and YouTube was paying $300 a month. I was down bad. And that's when it finally clicked. I wanted to do this YouTube thing full time, but I knew that I needed to step up my game to compete with the big dogs. So I changed the name of my channel, I changed my mindset, and I spent the rest of my savings on new gear to give it one last shot. I ditched the black glass desk for a clean white IKEA desk with more depth. I got better lighting, a higher quality microphone, my first legit office chair from Staples, and of course, the iconic IKEA desk plant. It was a very minimal setup, but it worked. I went from 50,000 subscribers to 120,000 subscribers in less than a year and was officially a full-time creator by 2017. This was the first time in my life that I learned the power of a workstation and how it can completely transform your productivity and lead to better work output. Now, I did eventually outgrow that small apartment room, and I decided to reinvest in this YouTube business by purchasing my first ever townhouse in 2019, complete with a larger dedicated home office. Here, I was able to upgrade to an even bigger IKEA desk. I bought my dream Herman Miller chair and upgraded numerous other aspects of the desk, but the walls were always bare, there were no lights anywhere, and I outgrew that office in 3 years. And that's what leads us here, to my dream desk setup. And for the first time ever, I actually enjoy sitting here and working all day long. And it's not just because of how neat and tidy everything is, it's because of how efficient the items on and around the desk are. And we'll get to everything in a moment, but the efficiency starts right here with this 250 watt Anker charging station. I have so many iPhones, iPads, MacBooks, so many different devices throughout my office that need charging, and this has rapidly become an essential for my desk setup. It's how I charge all of my devices with ease because everything is on my desk. It's not spread throughout the office or occupying every wall outlet. And it does have 4 USB-C ports on the front, but I realistically only use 2 or 3 max at a time, and I'll use it to charge up my iPhone throughout the day, my iPad Pro, my mouse, my keyboard, or whatever else happens to come on my desk that needs a charge. And it's nice to know that everything will charge at the same time at a combined 250 watts. And if I need, faster charging speeds for maybe a MacBook, I can do that with this adjustment knob on the side, and you'll also see the real-time charging speeds on the display and also in the app. Yes, there's an app for a charging station, I know, but it's actually pretty handy for changing the charging modes, and it's also just easier to use than the knob, although it doesn't look as good. So the desk is undoubtedly the most important part of a home workstation, and one of the things that I've learned through the years is that the depth matters more than the length, and that's why I've been using this IKEA Bacant desk for the past 5 or so years. It fits everything I would ever need on my desk. It has a cable management management net underneath, and it has adjustable legs. I do plan on getting a standing desk next, but I haven't really found any compelling ones that are just pure white like this. So if you have any recommendations, let me know in a comment. Now on top of the desk is this matte black desk shelf from Grovemade. Yes, it's expensive, but yes, it's also the best desk shelf that I've used for my specific setup. I just love how it has the integrated storage space beneath it, and that's where I keep my NVMe external SSDs. I keep a spare Magic Keyboard in here, some iPhones I commonly use for testing, and also my Stream Deck when it's not in use. And there's also another kind of storage area underneath of that, which I like to keep clean aside from my Anker charging station and this mini storage bin for small accessories that I might need to quickly access. But on top of the shelf is the main attraction, the first thing you probably noticed with this setup, and that is the dual 27-inch Apple Studio displays. So I never bought the crazy expensive $5,000 Pro Display XDR, but I think this is the next best thing. If you do any type of creative work, these displays are well worth the money, especially now that the price has dropped a bit. They're still expensive, but they are definitely worth it because the colors are phenomenal, but more importantly to me, the internal speakers are so good that these HomePod minis on my desk will probably end up on eBay by the end of the year because I just never need to use them. And then I have the M1 Ultra Mac Studio with 64 gigs of RAM hooking up to these displays, and this is the powerhouse that has run this YouTube channel since it launched in 2022, since the computer launched in 2022, that is. Now, this is an absolute beast of a computer, and the M2 model wasn't good enough to justify upgrading. I just love this M1 Ultra version. It gets the job done perfectly. I'll probably get more than 1 terabyte next time, but thankfully the 4 terabyte NVMe SSDs have been a lifesaver since I run all of my Final Cut Pro projects off of them. And then this guy to the right of the desk shelf is a low-key powerhouse to my workstation, and it's the reason that I'm able to connect so many accessories to my Mac without dongles, and that is the beautiful 14-in-1 docking station from, of course, Anker. This is another desk staple, and it works alongside the charging station because, well, I don't use it for charging. It does have charging ports on the front, but I use it for more practical reasons, like I power my Stream Deck since I ran out of ports on my Mac Studio from this thing. I run a USB-C cord to my Sony a7 IV when I'm recording to use my studio display as a monitor. I run my Ethernet cord to the docking station since it's closer to the wall output, and it's also a gigabit port so I don't lose any speeds. And then the headphone jack on the back of the Mac Studio makes it nearly impossible to plug in a wired pair of headphones for editing videos or listening to music, and this solves that issue as well since it has the 3.5mm headphone jack on the front. It also has dual HDMI ports on the back, but it is missing an SD card reader, which could be a con if your Mac doesn't have one, like the MacBook Air for example. Although I will say that next time you see my desk setup, it might actually be mounted under my desk just so I can free up a little bit more space on my desk. It's out of the way, but I like it to look a little bit cleaner. It might be joining my audio interface, which is also down here mounted under the desk alongside my power brick. So that's up there mounted under the desk, which is great for cable management. The headphones I plugged in are the Beyerdynamic DT770 Pros. These are studio headphones that I use when video editing. Now we'll talk about the other items in a minute, but we cannot go any further without discussing the second most important part of the desk setup, and that is the chair. For the past 3.5 years, I've been using the infamous Herman Miller Aeron chair. I customized this thing from Herman Miller. I customized it with the polished aluminum, the adjustable arms, pretty much everything, and I absolutely love this chair, and I plan on using it until it breaks because it was also super expensive. So I'm using it until I can't any longer. Like, it just helps so much with my posture thanks to the integrated back and lumbar support. Plus, it just looks amazing and timeless sitting at a desk. Speaking of sitting, I also have this amazing footrest from Human Scale that is also pretty pricey, but it's incredibly well built, and I was able to justify the cost because it helps me maintain proper posture, which is key when sitting for long periods of times. Just like with the Herman Miller chair, I justified that cost because it actually makes a big impact over the span of 10+ years. Anyways, back to the desk. So we have this big leather desk mat from IKEA of all places. It's like 35 bucks, and this is the best one I've used since it's so large and it has this bent front edge to prevent it from moving when you move. On top of that, we have the Grove Made leather coaster since I don't want to get cup rings on my desk mat. Also on the desk mat is my current keyboard of choice, which is Keychron's latest keyboard, the K2HE, and my current mouse of choice is the Logitech MX Master 3S. I also have this black resin palm rest from Keychron for supporting my palms while typing, and then I have something kind of similar for the mouse. So this is the Delta Hub wrist rest. Can you tell I'm over 30 yet? No, but seriously, these help a lot when working long periods of time at the desk. Now to the left, we have the M4 iPad Pro 13-inch, which is currently being charged by that charging station from Anker, and it's also sitting on a walnut stand from Grove Made. Now behind that is a really cool mini desk lamp from OG. It was cheap and it adds a nice flare to the empty side of the desk over here. And then mounted on this side of the desk is the Elgato Wave boom arm, which is nice because it's low profile and it kind of just stays out of the way when it's not in use. And then all the way over here to the right of the desk, we have the IKEA Alex drawer, which is where I store my extra phones, batteries, and any accessories. And on top of it, I have my AirPods Max sitting on my favorite headphone stand, which is from Banks. We also have my secondary Sony a7 IV and the Apple Vision Pro. Yes, I'm one of 10 people who still use the Vision Pro on a weekly basis. And then we also have another Anker product down here that serves a different purpose from the other two that I discussed. So this is the 8-in-1 charging station, but I primarily use it for these two AC outlets. This allows me to charge things like my Sony camera battery more discreetly without taking up another outlet on the wall, and it's also just nice to know that it does have 4 additional USB-C charging ports on the front if I ever needed to charge something over on that side of the desk. And this is also where I plug in the Anker Prime power bank. So this is kind of a hybrid charger. It's not really your average power bank because it can be used while plugged into an outlet or by itself thanks to its internal 9600 milliamp hour battery. It has these 2 USB-C ports on the side and it charges up to 65 watts. It also has that smart display like the others, so you can see the real-time charging speed and also the battery percentage of the battery pack itself. And plus, it's 60% smaller than your standard 65 watt power bank, so it fits in my bag easier. And even if I didn't want it in my bag, the integrated lanyard here is also just nice and makes it easy to carry. And I don't know, I just love how this thing can charge into a wall outlet itself without needing another block to charge my power bank. So if you don't like that for whatever reason, if you don't need the portable part of it, they do also have this 100 watt Anker Prime charger. This is their go-to, and it's a 3-in-1 wall charger with 2 USB-C ports and 1 USB-A. This is a tried and true charger. I've been using this model, like the older version, for like 10 years now. And then over here in the corner is a faux plant with a Nanlite Pavo tube to add more color to the office, as if we didn't already have enough of that, with the nanoleaf lines on the wall behind the monitors, which are another staple for wall decor in my office. And maybe I'll do a full home office video soon. So if you want to see that, let me know in a comment below. This was really just about my overall desk setup and how I've made it so efficient for my work. And of course, the cord you've seen me use throughout this video is the braided USB-C to USB-C cord from Anker that supports up to 240 watts fast charging. Man, we've come a long ways since sitting in wooden chairs and having to record on my bed. And my current desk setup behind me is more practical and efficient than it's ever been. And I think that's in large part due to Anker. And yes, they're sponsoring this video, but even if they were not, that USB hub and also the 250 watt power station have made a big difference in how I operate on the day-to-day in my office. I'm just so much less distracted and I'm so much more focused because everything is right there on my desk. So yes, they're sponsoring, but even if they weren't, I love these products and I would absolutely have at least one of them on my desk. So I will leave all their links down in the description below, along with everything else that I talked about in this video. So hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I would appreciate if you give it a thumbs up. Also make sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this one, along with iPhone and iOS content as well. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.